As guitarists, we're so used to thinking about scales and just playing up and down the scale when we improvise, but that can get boring really quick. So in this video, I'm going to show you a simple concept on how to approach playing more melodically and intentionally in your solos. Now let's say we're playing over a C minor blues. Now most people, if I told them, hey, play over a C minor blues, they would think, okay, the key center is C minor here. I got to play like C minor pentatonic or C natural minor scale even, right? And that stuff works, but at least in my experience, what would happen is that like the scale gives you so much to work with that it's hard to really make strong melodies out of those scale notes. So I would just kind of follow my ear and hope that I'd land on the right note at the right time, right? And that it would sound good. And at times it would sound good, but I would still find myself like playing the same things over and over again, right? Because you just fall into habits that way. So what we're gonna do instead is today we're gonna think about the chord progression as a whole. So in a C minor blues, we got C minor, we got F minor, goes back to C minor, then eventually it goes to G minor, back to F minor, back to C minor, and then there's a little G7 at the end, okay? So really 3 main chords and then a G7 at the end. So what we're gonna do is think about what notes are actually in those chords, because if we play those notes, those will probably sound the best over the chords because they're already in the chord, right? So these are called your chord tones. Your chord tones are just the notes in your chord. So how we're gonna do this is we're just gonna come up to this, let's do the 8th fret, C minor position, minor pentatonic position that we all know and love, right? So the first step is to picture as many chord shapes as you can for each of these chords. So for C minor, you got this like basic C minor bar chord shape, right? You have your C minor triad. You got some 7th chords. Some of you may know some other voicings, like voicings with tensions and stuff. We don't really need to focus on that. Honestly, as long as you can see some basic C minor chords in this area, even 1 or 2 basic C minor chords in this area, that's going to help you. So if we look at this chord here, this is built up of roots, thirds, and fifths. So I know a lot of you guys are in different spots in terms of understanding a basic theory here, but the root is the first note in the scale. So if we're in C minor, the root is going to be C. The third is the third note of the scale. The fifth is the fifth note of the scale. A major chord is built up from a root, third, and fifth. In this case, we're playing a minor chord, a C minor. So really the third is like a flat third. But if we think of a C minor scale, the first note is C, third note is E flat, fifth note is G. So our C minor chord is going to be built up of C, E flat, and G, or the root, flat third, and fifth. So if you look at any C minor chord, like most C minor chords that you know, are just going to be a combination of roots, thirds, and fifths. So in this case, we have a root, fifth, a root, a flat third, a fifth, and a root. But the good news is that even if you don't really fully understand this stuff yet, you can still use these chord shapes to see your chord tones and be like, okay, well, this is showing me a bunch of notes that would be good to target in my solos, even if you don't know what those notes necessarily are yet. So now in the same general position, we just want to find some other chord shapes for the other chords in our progression. So F minor, I know I have an F minor right here. I have some triads, some 7th chords. G minor, same thing. And you can do this with G7 as well. So we have some chords in the back of our head. We have an idea of where these chord tones are. Now what we're gonna do is pick a specific chord tone of each of these chords to land on when that chord changes. So for the C minor, let's say I pick this note here. I know that that's within the chord, right? That's a chord tone of C minor. Depending on what you know, you may know that's an E flat, you may know that's a flat third. I like to think of intervals, so I'm thinking this is my flat third. So I'm gonna play the flat third of the C minor. Now I'm gonna find a close by chord tone of my next chord, which is F minor. So if I'm thinking F minor, I'm I'm seeing that shape there. Well, a close note to this one that we just played would be this. This is in the chord, right? This is in an F minor chord. That's my root, my 1, because in F minor, this is F, right? So that's the 1 of the chord. Now for G minor, I could either go up to the root here, or I could maybe go down to the 5th here. Let's say I do the 5th, just to mix things up. So now for my C minor, I'm gonna play this E flat here. For the F minor, I'm gonna play F, or the root. And for the G minor, I'm gonna play D, or the 5th. And then maybe the G7 will go up to the root, to the G, okay? So now let's put on the C minor blues backing track, and I'm just gonna start very, very simple, like literally just hitting those exact notes on the downbeats, just to lock it in for myself and make sure that I'm visualizing those. And as I'm playing those notes, it would help if you're also visualizing in the back of your head the bigger chord shape. And the reason for that is because when we're playing in real life, we want to be able to visualize all at once a bunch of options so that no matter where we end up, we can access those options, right? Even if we're just playing one of them, right? Even if I'm just playing this note, in the back of my head, I'm seeing I have all these other notes at my disposal. So I'm going to put on the backing track. This is going to sound really boring at first, but then we're going to add some flavor in, okay? Right, super, super simple. Since it's so slow, I gotta really make sure I'm hitting the right note at the right time. There's the 5th, to the F, back to 3rd of the C minor, flat 3rd of C minor. So that's step 1. So now we're going to allow ourselves to fill in the space in the middle, but we're still going to maintain that rule. We still have to hit those right notes on the downbeats of each of those chords, right? So what this is going to cause us to do is look ahead to that chord tone and make sure we're hitting those chord tones confidently at the right time. So the other notes I can use are any notes from a C natural minor scale or anything else I know that works over a C minor blues. I could use chromatic passing tones. Eventually, you could use substitutions, different tensions, things like that. I'll show you an example of how I might use the scale and maybe some chromatic passing tones to fill in the spaces in the middle, but still making sure I'm landing on those exact notes on the downbeats. Okay, let's hear it. So there I was still making sure to land on those chord tones that we picked earlier on the downbeats of each of those chords, but I was giving myself the freedom to add more stuff in the middle. Now, when you're adding stuff at first, I would keep it more simple than what I just did. I would just maybe expand the range to like 2 other strings or something, like keep it very honed into this area and focus on just like voice leading nicely from one note to the next. Keep the melodies simple, don't try to overdo it in the middle because we still want to really hold on to the fact that we have to land on those notes at the right time, right? This is going to train you to just look ahead, make sure you're really sticking the landing, and it's going to help your phrasing, make your playing just more intentional in general. Now, another way you could go about this is instead of bringing in notes from the scale, you can bring in other chord tones. So kind of like playing the arpeggio, right? Because playing the arpeggio, you're just playing chord tones. We're going to allow ourselves to play some other chord tones. So let me show you an example of what that sounds like. I'm not thinking scale, I'm thinking chord tones of each of these chords. So C minor, instead of just this flat 3, I'm still going to land on that flat 3 on the downbeat, but I'm going to give myself the freedom to fill in the spaces with the other notes of C minor, which are 5th and root, right? Same thing with all the other chords. Okay, let's see what that sounds like. So what that's training me to do is to see those other chord tones as well. So I'm really locking in. These are my ideal notes to kind of focus my ideas around when I solo. And then obviously, like, this all sounds like an exercise right now. So ideally, when you loosen the reins a little bit and start to give yourself more freedom to add other flavors, like add scale notes, like tension notes, chromatic notes, things like that, you'll still be targeting those chord tones on the important beats. So it's just gonna make your phrasing better. And it's gonna sound like you're outlining those changes a little bit better. So you wanna practice this in a variety of different situations, you know, in different positions up and down the neck, using different chord progressions, different scales, things like that. And in reality, if you do really want to access this freedom on the guitar, it's very hard to walk you through the exact steps that you need personally on a YouTube video, because I'm talking to whoever's watching this right now, right? So if you really do want to take your playing to the next level, I'm linking a free training video down in the description. In that video, I show you how to break free of boxes, how to break free of the intermediate plateau, and really open up the fretboard and improvise more freely. So check out that free training. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed the video. Try out this exercise. Let me know how it goes in the comments, and like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon.